Hey guys, welcome back to another video. It has been roughly 9 years since the last time I showed my face at all on this channel, but I had a video idea today that just kind of felt appropriate to actually use a face cam. I'm probably not going to use it that much in the future, but tonight we are. Um, have you ever had one of those nights, and I'm sure a lot of people have, where you just have a random idea, kind of bothers you, and you can't really sleep until you act on whatever that idea is? That's kind of what I'm going through right now. It is 1:30 in the morning. I had this idea in my mind just for a random video. I don't know how well this is going to do. Just thought it'd be interesting. So I went through all of the current affiliated minor league teams, and I found out that I have been to 31 stadiums that are currently, affiliated. And I was thinking about like how every stadium, has something unique that kind of makes it stand out. When you think about that place years later, like this is the thing you think of. And so I kind of want to make a video about the 31 stadiums that I have personal experience with, and just naming, something unique or something that stands out about it. And when I say unique, I'm now thinking there might be something that I mention here that maybe a couple or a few different stadiums have. So maybe it's not one of a kind, but it's most likely going to be something that you don't see, everywhere. And I am also excluding stadiums that I have not actually stepped foot in. There are stadiums that I have walked the perimeter of, seen gotten plenty of pictures in some cases, but never was actually inside to really, experience the full stadium like it was meant to be. I'll just name drop some examples like Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Quad Cities. All those stadiums I have plenty of pictures of, walked around the perimeters, but was never inside. So I am going to exclude those. On the flip side, there is a couple of these stadiums that I have been inside and I would argue have the full experience. But since I was actually inside and, got a, view of the stadium from inside, I'm going to count them. I'm not going to give away what my feature is yet, but those two stadiums in my mind right now are Fort Wayne and Kannapolis. Fort Wayne, I've never seen a game in, but I was able to get inside one time. And Kannapolis, this kind of leads into one of the features I was going to mention, so I'm not going to say it outright. But I have also seen games there, just college games, not the cannonballers. And also, I am going to keep this to either features of the stadium, or if it's not directly attached to the stadium, something that is permanently there. So that does exclude like unique promotions. While there are a lot of teams that have unique promotions, example being like say Reading and their hot dog vendor ostrich guy, I'm not going to include that here because that is exclusive to those games. I'm kind of looking more for features that you would see even on non-game days. All right, so my plan here is to go from AAA down in alphabetical order by division. So the first one here, I have the International League, AAA. This is the East Division. There are a lot of teams in every division here. The first one in alphabetical order, I believe, unless I just don't know how to spell, is Charlotte. This one's pretty easy. This is something people talk about a lot, and that is the skyline. There are, of course, a lot of other stadiums where there is a skyline, but nothing quite like this, where it is, the main downtown is right in front of you. And actually, Charlotte, I guess they call it uptown. I never figured out the difference between what is an uptown, what's a downtown. But, the main part of the city is right there, and that is probably, the most unique city skyline that you get in all of baseball right now. All right, the next one here is the Durham Bulls. This one isn't going to be a super big shock to anyone. Durham, the stadium does have a lot of unique features, but I mean the one that stands out the most and is going to be probably one of the most famous examples on this list is the giant bull in left field, even though it's in right field in the movie, but it's left field in real life. It does say, if you hit the bowl, you win a steak. If you hit the grass it's standing on, you win a salad. um, I, I I assume that's valid. I'm not sure how many people, if any, have actually hit that. All right, the next one we have here is the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp, and this one is pretty easy to me. This was just added this year in the outfield. This is the Shrimp Boat, or there's about three of them, so I guess it's plural boats. But this is a new seating option that, like I said, just came out this year. Basically, if you, I forget what the number is, but if you have a certain number of people, you can have a group to rent out a boat out there, and it's just a really unique setting, I guess, to be in sort of like a boat just hanging out there in center field. Next, we have the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs. This one I'm going to go with the giant Coke bottle that is right above the scoreboard, which, by the way, this video board is sort of unique in itself. It is the largest video board in all of baseball. The Coke bottle on top shoots out fireworks through every run, home run, during the national anthem. It does it. It does it whenever whenever something happens. And the little bottle cap flips up, and out comes fireworks. So I think that's pretty cool. Also, I'm still going with the Coke bottle, but there's also a giant guitar that's been out there for years as well. That's kind of unique. All right, next up is the Rochester Red Wings. Trying to think of this one. This one has been 7 years. 2018 was my only trip up there. I like the Kodak building in left field. That's another city skyline example. This is probably going to be a really lame one, but I like that in center field at the batter's eye, they have like this light up sign, or at least they did at the time. I assume it's still there. They had this light up sign that was sort of like, if I remember it was like neon-ish, but it would only light up in between innings, because it's a batter's eye. It needs to be dark during play. But, the advertisement of whatever it was, I don't remember, but it really showed at night. And it was just kind of cool because, like I said, if I'm remembering correctly, it was sort of like a neon-ish sort of sign, and in between innings, it would just light up red. So yeah, that's what I'm going with for Rochester. Next is the Scranton Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders. I've been here many times. It is a great ballpark, and I'm trying to think of something. I like in the outfield. They they have a grass berm like a lot of places do, but it really does sort of feel like you're in a park almost. You have trees, you have benches and stuff. Like I said, every stadium, or not every, but a lot of stadiums do have grass berms with, even some have benches, but it really does have the scenery like you're in a park. You have rocks, like I said, trees and benches, and right behind, where the stadium is a gigantic hill, and on top is like a shopping mall or whatever, but you really don't see much of that. So the backdrop behind you is just like essentially a mountain. So, it really does feel like you're kind of cut off in that sort of scenery. I'm probably not doing it justice. Probably doing a bad job of describing it for someone who's never been there, but it really is a cool feeling being out there in the outfield over there at PNC Park. PNC Park's in Pittsburgh. So now I'm going to move on to the International League West teams, which include Columbus, Louisville, and Indianapolis. Actually, I think Indianapolis is before Louisville in the alphabet, but same thing, those three. One other thing that I forgot to mention as well that I should have mentioned at the beginning is that I am doing this all based off memory, which is another added feature to this that kind of makes it personal to me, is just how well my memory is for all of this. With that said, our second one here is also a C. It is the Columbus Clippers. I was just there last year. I'd say the most unique thing there, in right field, they have this wall, giant green wall, which isn't that unique, but I kind of like the fact that they have like windows you can see through, which I know is not the only stadium that has something like that, but it is something they don't see a lot for sure. Because it is just downtown streets. Like to see through the these windows through the giant wall in right field, we're not talking like you need a ticket to be in that area. This is just city street, and you can just walk by and stand there for however long you like. All right, the next one here is the Indianapolis Indians. This one was 9 years ago. Ironically, the last time I showed my face on this channel was um, this Midwest trip I did where I did go to Indy. And again, I'm basing this off of memory, so I do have to think back 9 years. I did sort of visit last year. I walked around the outside. There was no game that day. But I'm trying to think of anything that's like really unique to that stadium, and uh, honestly, I can't really think of much. The thing I can think of is using the city skyline example again, and that I think it's a Marriott, the big long building that they sometimes display things on. Like last year when I was there, they had a big thing hyping up the Colts during the 500, the Indy 500. They usually have something related to that on the building. Um, that's gonna be what I'm gonna have to go with. I can't think of anything else that was super unique to that stadium. All right, so the Louisville Bats are another team that I visited 9 years ago on that same Midwest trip. I do not have a hat. I do have a shirt that I maybe could have worn. I'm just wearing what I wore today. um, so in its place of Louisville, I'm just wearing Cincinnati Reds because that is their affiliate. And even though this was 9 years ago, I can exactly remember what makes this ballpark stand out. And that is kind of the point of why I wanted to make this video, because of things like this that years later you remember. It's like, oh yeah, that place. It is the um, old train station when you walk into the ballpark. It's this, almost want to call it like a hub before you get to the main concourse. Like I said, it's been 9 years, so I don't remember every little thing that's in there, but they have the fancy old lighting and everything. Like I said, it used to be an actual train station. It is, air conditioned. So if you've been walking around for a while in the summer, before you enter the ballpark itself, you can kind of just hang out there. And yeah, it's nice, expansive brick. It's a really cool place to be. All right, so there's none in the Pacific Coast League. I have been to Vegas, but that was in their old ballpark, so it does not count in this scenario. So we're moving on to Double A. What are the other leagues before I go into the... So Southern and Texas League, nothing there. This is all Eastern League. And we start with the Northeast Division, which includes Binghamton, Somerset, and Reading. Again, not in that order because Reading comes before Somerset. But here we have the Binghamton Rumble Ponies first. To be honest, it's I don't know. I don't have much to say about it. I was there once back in 2018. By the way, if I have not much to say, it doesn't mean it's bad. It just means I'm trying to just think of something that's like unique. I sort of said this about Columbus already, but it's kind of one of the few things I can think of about Binghamton. Is in a little bit of right field. There is a place where you can kind of look through the wall a bit, if I'm remembering that correctly. Although this is different, whereas Columbus was anyone can just walk by in a city street without paying a ticket. This is actually like inside the property of the ballpark, so you do need to be a ticket holder to do this. And I don't remember, it could actually be like a special ticket in itself to be in that area. It's been 7 years, and I'm committed to doing all this by memory. So if I'm remembering that a little bit incorrectly, then please let me know. But it's about the best thing I got for Binghamton. Okay, the Reading Fightin' Phils. I've worn this hat so much. I don't know if I've just worn it down or if it's always been a little bit bigger than I remember. I didn't wear it that long ago, I don't think. Anyway, this ballpark was built in 1950. It is very unique in many ways. Lots of history, literally painted through the walls under the main set of stands. But I'm going to go with here is something that was somewhat more recent add-on. Doesn't go all the way back to 1950, but I like their little boardwalk area out in left field. I like there are special seats you can buy that are closer to the outfield wall, and they're elevated too. Like this whole area is pretty elevated above the field as well. But they have high Discord. We have they have like I guess they call it loge boxes. I'm gonna mute my computer sound by the way. Who is sending me messages at 2 in the morning anyway? Anyway, they have these loge boxes that you can buy out as well. Out there in the outfield, which is pretty cool. One food. This is kind of going on a little tangent, but one food item that they have, which is unique and cool, that kind of coincides with that area, is the what do they even call it? It's a hamburger, but it's in the shape of a hot dog. It tastes exactly like a hamburger, but in the shape of a hot dog, so it's unique that way. So this hat does not fit me correctly. I don't know if it shows very well. This is the Somerset Patriots. The reason why I have this hat and it doesn't fit me is this is an actual hat worn by the manager at the time when they were in the Atlantic League. Brett Jody's. Can you see his number? I think you can. His number 29 right there. Obviously, he has a smaller head than me. I've never tried to wear this. I don't plan on wearing it in public. I just wanted to wear it for this occasion for a few minutes. This is, as I said, Somerset. As much as I love this ballpark, as much as when they were in the Atlantic League, it consistently got rated as the best minor league or the best ballpark in the Atlantic League. There's not a ton that's super unique about it when you compare it to AA teams and minor league teams in general. You do have the train station right there, which is always great. You see the train go by in right field all the time. I feel like that's not unique enough. On the concourse in left field, they have this nice little wall of history, which I know is not unique. A lot of teams have that. Really, that's the most I got. Something else I could actually throw out there is the big giant flags out in center field. Not only are all their championship flags huge, you can see one of the retired ones above me, by the way. But the American flag was kind of a staple of the owner who passed away now. But Steve Califer always had gigantic American flags, not just at the stadium, but he owned a ton of car dealerships, and they also have gigantic American flags. So that was kind of his thing. I guess that's what I'm gonna have to say for this. There might be other places that have giant American flags, but that's the thing that kind of stands out to me. All right, so now we have the Southwest Division of the Eastern League, which includes Akron, Altoona. I'm looking at the hats I have over here, Harrisburg, and Richmond. So those are the ones I've been to. Akron, I was just at last year. Trying to remember back. I like the exterior look of the stadium. I swear I'm not trying to like be negative about anyone. I just genuinely cannot think of anything that good. Wait, that came out wrong too. No, nothing was bad about Akron. Just uniqueness is what I'm talking about. This isn't necessarily attached to the stadium or a part of the property or related. I forget what it was. There's this other building that's past the outfield that I walked through. It was sort of like a mini park. That was attached to it that you walked through. I walked through it after the game. I thought that was kind of nice. There was little water areas. I'm sorry I'm doing a terrible job at describing this, but I'm, again, doing this solely off of memory. But it was what do they call it? Little water things, little like lines of water. Anyway, it was kind of like just a nice little walk out in the outfield after the game. I like that. I know it's not part of the stadium itself. Like I said, if I had to choose something that was a part of the actual stadium, I'd say I like the exterior. That's about all I got for Akron. I'm sorry. The Altoona curve, you don't have to think too hard about, especially not like I just had to do for Akron, who I just visited last year and I couldn't think of anything good for, and I apologize. Altoona, The last time I was there was about 3 years ago. I was there twice in the same year. 2022 is the only year I was actually there. As I said, I was there twice. It was about a month apart. Anyway, the roller coaster in the outfield. Again, it's not a part of the stadium, but it is a major part of how people identify the Altoona curve. Is that roller coaster part of that amusement park out in right field? It is cool when you see people actually on it. Apparently, that amusement park has pretty limited hours, so you don't actually typically see people on it during games, but you do occasionally. And it's kind of cool to see. So that's my pick for Altoona. But just another side note thing, I always thought it was interesting, the giant McDonald's sign that is out in center field, because the original owners also were McDonald's franchisees as well. So I thought that was interesting. I'm really starting to wonder if the older hats that I've worn, like, have I just worn them down so much to where they just feel bigger? Anyway, because I got this one a long time ago as well, and probably like 2018-ish, and it just feels bigger. I feel like I've just worn it down on the inside enough to where it grew or something. This is not a sole feature, but just the whole area itself, because the Harrisburg Senators is on what they call City Island. And I've even taken time to walk around the whole island, and it's a very, very nice place. All of it is pretty much a park. At the end of the island, you have more athletic fields. You have mini golf. People can go on a little beach and go in the water. Because this is, I hope I get the name of the river right. I think it's the Susquehanna River, I think. There's a nice bridge that leads you to downtown, and a lot of people take the walking bridge to and from games, or even on non-game days. The island is busy with people just using it as a public park. There's a train that goes around the whole island, and it's just a very nice, very, very nice area. It is one of my favorite ballparks, and I can definitively say that, just because of the stadium itself too, but the just everything about going to City Island is great. If I had to choose something from the ballpark itself, just to be fair, I guess this is similar to Reading. I like the boardwalk out in the outfield. Kind of completes the walk around. And I guess something I can say about Harrisburg as well is just it's kind of like spliced together old and new parts of the stadium. So you walk in, you're on the boardwalk area, and then you have to walk up the stairs to get to the main concourse, kind of behind home plate, because that's like the original part of the stadium. And then on the other side, you kind of walk down, and you're kind of in a no man's land. You walk behind temporary bleachers over on the first base side, and it kind of just feels like you're walking in the parking lot, even though you're still technically inside the stadium. Then you walk up another set of steps to get to the boardwalk. So that is definitely something extremely unique that makes that stand out for sure. All right, the last one here in the Eastern League is the Richmond Flying Squirrels. I was just here for my first and most likely only visit to the stadium. They are replacing it with a new stadium starting next year. As of now, it's still active, so I can talk about this stadium as present day. The diamond is very unique. It is the only minor league stadium I've been to that has two true concourses, like a lower concourse and an upper concourse. There are other stadiums, especially once you get into AAA, that have upper decks. And I'm not just talking about suite level, by the way. I'm talking about concourses that are accessible to everyone. And in those examples I was just talking about, like Syracuse, Buffalo, I've not been to either of those stadiums, but both of them do have upper decks. I believe in those scenarios, they are just one concourse though, and it's just a set of stairs to get to the upper deck of the seating. Richmond, like I said, is the only place that I've personally been to that has two true levels of the concourse, and I think that's pretty cool. It was obviously built for a AAA team. You probably get higher up than any other place in the minor leagues. It seats like 10,000 something people, and it is, I took a lot of pictures when I was there, because I know just how unique of a stadium it is, and it is sad to go. But obviously, I understand that it's outdated, and all that, but it is definitely unique. And what I have seen of their new ballpark, to be honest, it kind of blends in with a lot of other new ballparks. It doesn't look very unique in its own, but I'm not going to judge that, I guess, until it actually opens. All right, we are on to the higher division of single A. I want to be up front here. There are no Northwest teams. This is going to be a few Midwest League and a lot of South Atlantic League, me being based on the East Coast. So you may notice, if you know all of these teams, I'm wearing the Evansville Otters, which is not affiliated and never has been. That's because that's just the closest connection I could make to this team, the Fort Wayne Tin Caps. I mentioned at the beginning of the video I've never seen a Tin Caps game, but when I was there 9 years ago, same trip as Indy and Louisville, it was kind of just open, and a worker let us in. Said we're fine to just walk around. So I'm counting it. I can't remember much, and to be fair, this one was 9 years ago. So I kind of, I feel like I'm struggling the same as I did with Indy a bit. I'm gonna have to go with the skyline again. I like the apartment buildings in left field. Those are kind of cool. Just the structure of, if I remember right, is just this long stretch of like white. I'm saying apartment buildings. I'm assuming they're apartment buildings. I do not know if they actually are or not. I like that. The Fort Wayne, like a lot of small cities, has like one large building, and that's pretty much right in center field from what I remember. Yeah, other than that, I will say I don't remember much of the exterior. We entered from the right field gate and exited out the same way. So, maybe there's some crazy exterior behind home plate that I haven't seen or something. I don't know. But that's all I got for Fort Wayne. All right, we are on to the West Division of the Midwest League. We have two teams here. We have the Cedar Rapids Colonels, and we're going to move on to South Bend after this, which I actually have a lot to talk about for South Bend. For Cedar Rapids, first off, they have free parking. Love that. Second off, this seating bowl area is pretty standard. I just remember a lot of red seats. One thing that I will praise this stadium a lot for is when you walk into the team store, there's this hallway kind of in the back corner, and it's just a whole hallway of the history of Cedar Rapids baseball. It was actually awesome just to find that, like I said, just tucked away in the corner, near the bathrooms, I think, too. There was a Paul O'Neill jersey. He played in Cedar Rapids at one point with the Reds affiliation. There was jerseys going back to the early 1910s-ish, Cedar Rapids Bunnies, and a whole other slew of Cedar Rapids baseball history. It's just a small little hallway, but they pack a lot into it. That's the one thing I can praise this stadium a lot for. I really enjoyed looking at all that over in Cedar Rapids. Alright, the last team that I've been to here in the Midwest League, specifically the West Division, is the South Bend Cubs. Visited here 2 years ago, same year that I visited Cedar Rapids. I don't think I mentioned when I visited, but that was also 2 years ago. South Bend is very, very unique. I can talk about a few different things. My pick for the most unique is probably going to go with the team store. The team store is literally an old church. And actually, I don't, this isn't cheating, because I just planned on making this video literally a few hours ago. But I was recently looking back at old pictures on my phone of when I was in South Bend. I think it was a Jewish church, because I remember like that Star of David, or I don't know why I was about to say or something. I know exactly that's what it is. But I remember that's still on the front of the building, and it's not a church anymore. They converted it into the team store for the Cubs, and it's really cool when you walk in there. Is the most unique setting of a team store I have ever been in, for sure. The high ceilings, chandeliers, and meanwhile you're shopping for this, but you are at the same time are just in this amazing architecture. Some other things in South Bend, you can see this from the stadium, but it's not really a part of it. There's an old Union Station that hasn't been used in very long time. Like 1971, I think, is when it shut down. But you can see that, and that's kind of cool. They use it for other stuff now, of course, but it's just cool to see like an old train station. To replicate, the Chicago Cubs, they actually have apartment buildings in that they built in the outfield and left field, and they do have bleachers on top of them to have the rooftop seating. That's really cool. The whole outfield is just a very unique experience. They have a lot of space out there. They have this huge area just for like tables and stuff. Although the outfield area is large enough to where I'd say if you're at this area, you're so far away from the game, you cannot tell what's going on. That's how big this outfield area is, but still very nice setting. You walk out the outfield gate, you're surrounded by, again, the apartments, stores. It's like this, basically just this brick walkway all the way to the end of the street, and you're on both sides. It's like just, businesses and apartments and stuff. It's very nice. South Bend, I said Harrisburg is one of my favorites. South Bend has to be up there as well, out of any stadium I've been to. Very cool place. All right, so we are on to the South Atlantic League now. The entire North Division I have been to. The South Atlantic League is probably the most representation in this video. So the first here by alphabetical order is Aberdeen. This is a weird style of hat, but it's what I picked out the one time I went there in 2014. The one thing I'd say about this place is, I guess it kind of is the surrounding area. You have a bunch of different fields, not just the field where the Ironbirds play, but the surrounding fields, because it's a whole Ripken youth area. I'm sorry, I don't know the official name, but a lot of the youth initiatives set up by the Ripkens happen there. I assume they still do at the especially at the other ball fields, although Cal Ripken did sell the Ironbirds last year, which is kind of why they're kind of going through a phase right now where they're being demoted all the way to being a collegiate league. But that's not a story for today. The best thing I can say about Aberdeen, like I said, just the area it's in. First off, it's convenient. 95 is right in the outfield. Unlike another stadium that I'm going to talk about here in a bit, you can't really hear the interstate traffic, at least from what I remember 11 years ago. You can't really hear the interstate traffic because it's like below the stadium. But other than that, like I said, all the ball fields, there's a nice hotel if you want there. I didn't stay there, but there is a nice hotel on that property as well. So I guess that's Aberdeen. All right, next up is the Brooklyn Cyclones. This one you don't have to think too hard about. It's right on Coney Island. You have the ride that doesn't operate anymore, that kind of flyer ride out there in right field. In left field, you have coaster, which is not the Cyclone. The Cyclone you can see, but it's kind of in the background. There's a newer coaster that is the one that you see right there in the outfield. And of course, if you're high up enough, you can see the water as well out there. So yeah, and I mean, again, going back to the detail of the surrounding area, I mean, it's Coney Island. It's obviously, amusement park. Nathan's Hot Dogs is right down the road too. Just a cool place to be. I realize at this point I have kind of gone off the rails from naming one thing to just naming as many features as I can think of. So that's what this video has become at this point. But anyway, we're on to the Greensboro Grasshoppers. I cannot think of anything super unique. I was there 2 years ago. That was my trip to Greensboro. I don't know. I'm stumped on this one. Again, nothing bad. I have nothing terrible to say about any stadium, but I just I can't think of much for Greensboro, honestly. That was the first time that I went to a box office and they still didn't have physical tickets. I went to the box office and it was like, your tickets will be texted to you. It's like, why'd I even come to the box office? Yeah, I'm stumped. I mean, it's a downtown ballpark. It's easy access for anyone in downtown, I guess. I can't think of a feature. It's just Greensboro. I don't know. All right, Hudson Valley. I was just at the Hudson Valley Renegades. Yeah, I mean it's only 30 years old. I was gonna say it's an older stadium. It's 30 years old. It has one of the shortest main concourses I think I've seen, and again, that's not a knock on it at all. That's just how it is. Um, the concourse you enter basically right behind home plate. You go down basically to about where the dugouts start, and that's really all the concourse is. There, of course, is a concourse that kind of separates the upper and lower areas, that goes all the way down, to the foul poles. And now they've expanded, and in left field there's a whole little private seating area, even extending into the outfield itself. But yeah, I mean that's what I got for Hudson Valley is the uniqueness of the concourse there. It's kind of under one of the ones where it's like underneath the stands too. All right, we got the Jersey Shore Blue Claws up next. What I like about this is the giant beach chairs that line the outfield. There are several of them through the entire outfield concourse. Giant beach chairs you can just climb into. There is sand there too to replicate a beach. Um, they had mini golf over in on the kind of near the foul pole, I think, near on the first base side. They have a whole mini golf course. They have the boardwalk out in center field, and it's not like the boardwalk that I talked about, with other teams previously, where it's literally just the boardwalk. They call this the boardwalk because it has carnival games and stuff. Um, you know, like you'd see on the boardwalk, like at the shore. So it's all pretty cool. I remember the first time I went there, all that in center field was not there. It was just like a beer shack that wasn't open and like a picnic bench. That was what was out there. Then that building is gone, and like I said, now it's a bunch of carnival games. I think it's really, really cool and unique to have that vibe out there. All right, my most recent trip to Wilmington was just this year, this April. Um, my pick for the unique thing about this is Interstate 95. Unlike Aberdeen, where you can't really hear it, through Wilmington it's actually elevated, and you can hear it. For better or for worse, that's your opinion. But if you watch specifically the video from this year, where I'm like in the set of bleachers that is on the third base side, the whole time all you hear is just traffic. This is kind of funny. So that's my pick. But also a couple other features is the bleachers I just mentioned. They just kind of stick out. It's the only real, I guess, upper deck. If you're at the top of the bleachers, you're actually higher up than the suite level as well. So you get a little bit higher up perspective for cheaper as well. When you enter the building, or the stadium rather, there's kind of two unique sets of stairs that kind of go opposite of each other. You just climb those stairs to get to the concourse, but that's also kind of a unique feature as well. Man, I'm starting to get tired. If you ever can't sleep, just make a random YouTube video. That should do the trick in about an hour. That's about how long I've been at this. But next, we have the South Division of the South Atlantic League. It is the Greenville Drive. What I can say about this, this is not my pick because there are plenty of places that have this, specifically ones that are Boston Red Sox affiliated, but they do have that green monster replica in left field. They do have seats on top of it as well. I do like this is another downtown area where there are apartments in the outfield, and there are balconies, too, where, if you live there, I suppose you can just walk out on your balcony and you have a clear view of the game. Greenville itself, very, very, very nice city. Very walkable. The downtown stretch leading up to the stadium is amazing. Lots of cool stuff to do in Greenville. On the one side of the stadium where the box office is a nice just walking road, I guess you'd call it. It's only for pedestrians. It's a nice brick road. On that stretch, or maybe just a little bit outside that stretch, I don't remember, is the Shoeless Joe Jackson Museum. That's going to be my pick, even though it's not part of the stadium proper. It is, part of that area. And obviously it's very baseball related. I will say I have tried to get in, and it has very limited hours, so check the hours if you plan on going there. I could not get in because it was just off hours, but yeah, that's my pick. Is not just the museum, but that whole walkway right outside the stadium is just all really nice with, like I said, just the amount of things to do. You know, the restaurants, the apartments, the whole area is very nice. I will say, though, if you do plan on driving to the game, you either get lucky with street parking or you park very far away. I will know that I will say that from experience. All right, next we have the Hub City Spartan Burgers. Obviously, I was there this year. This is the only year that they've existed so far. Brand new stadium. Very cool. It's one of those small cities that has the train tracks running parallel, and you can see or not. Well, I guess you can see it, but you can mostly hear just trains rolling through sometimes in the middle of the game. My pick for the unique feature is there is a Spartanburg sort of like neon sign. I don't know if it's actually neon or not, but I do like the light up sign that they have on the inside of the stadium behind home plate. You can see it all throughout the stands. It lights up green at night, just says Spartanburg. That's my pick. I really enjoy that sign. That's my Hub City pick. All right, our final team from the South Atlantic League is the Rome Emperors, is what they're called now. When I was there, it was the Rome Braves. I was there 2 years ago during the final week that they were the Rome Braves. Not a ton to talk about here in terms of uniqueness. If I had to pick something, I'd say I do like how it's one of those stadiums where there sort of is an upper deck. You get there, from the middle concourse, and you kind of just walk up. It's kind of its own deck. The suite levels is still above you, but it just feels like like you're higher up than most, upper decks in the minor leagues, especially single A. Other than that, I can't think of a ton for Rome, to be honest. I think that's all where I'm going to leave it. I don't really have a ton. All right, so we are on creaky chair. So anyway, we are on to low A now. Just to be upfront here, there will be no California League or Florida State League. This is solely 3 teams in the Carolina League that I have personally visited. First here, this is the only team from the North Division. This is the Fayetteville Woodpeckers. Newer stadium. I do like the kind of entranceway. That's not my pick, but I do like the entranceway. It's just kind of one long path to get there. I think it's kind of cool. I like how they let you park in just any municipal lot as well in the area. Like the 2 times I've been there, I've just kind of parked at the municipal building that's a block away. As long as, it's not work hours 9 to 5, middle of the week, then you're good to park there. I like, again, not my pick, but I like in right field they have this area where they have like couches and cornhole, and it's not concrete, it's like a turf area, and it's actually a part of the concourse and anyone can use it. That's really cool. My pick, I think, it has to do more with the atmosphere again. I've mentioned stadiums that have trains in the outfield, but this one has 2 lines of it, or 2 rails, I guess. There's one that you can see even from inside the stadium in the outfield. There's one that goes, past right field. And just when you think you can see whenever a train goes by over in right field, there's one behind you down the third base line as well. Depending on what direction you come from, you might not know it's there. You come from one direction, you go right over it. If you come from the other direction, you never see it. Yeah, it's unique because there's a lot of rail lines in that area, and you are literally surrounded by them in the in Segra Park, Segra Stadium. I think it's Park Segra, the one in Fayetteville, because there are a couple different Segra sponsored stadiums, but that's besides the point, isn't it? Yeah. I like this. I like the stadium. There's not too much else that I would say is unique. But for a stadium that was only built in 2019, it is a great stadium overall. Yeah, those are my points. All right, on to the South Division. We have 2 teams here, and then we finally wrap up the video here. First here we have the Hickory Crawdads. This stadium is unique to me. It's not the biggest, of course, but it's built in the 90s, I believe. It's one of those where the concourse is kind of just behind everything. It's behind the press box, what little suites there are, which is a whole other point It goes behind that as well. Now, what I think I'm going to go with, just because it's kind of strange, there's only maybe one or two suites, and they are down the third baseline, and it's kind of just a separate building from what I can recall from being there 2 years ago. It's just kind of its own sort of separate building. It's not on a different level. It's just you. Obviously, I haven't been in there, but it's one of those things where I think you just get there from the main concourse. You walk through a door and you're in. Definitely unique. It takes up a part of the main seating bowl, like the outdoor seating part of the suite. Kind of is just up almost the same level as the regular seating. Um, so very interesting there. Um, Another just side tangent. The only place where I've ever seen an early release of a pocket schedule is at Hickory. I went there for a playoff game in September, and the box office had these early bird specials, not specials, but early access, early something, whatever you want to call it, for the next year's pocket schedule, which was 2024 at the time. And it was black and white. There's no color to it, but it was an early release of the schedule, which was pretty cool. I'd never seen that before. All right, final team. Sorry, I'm starting to run low on energy, but that was part of the point of doing this because I couldn't sleep. But the last team here is the Kannapolis Cannonballers. And what I will say about this is they kind of, just the way they run it is unique. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I have not been to a Cannonballers game. I was there for a day of college baseball in February, so I have seen games there. But also, I have just walked around there on any given day, on any random day, because it is an actual public park. Within hours, within daylight hours, you can just walk in on a non-game day and just walk around the concourse at your leisure. Team store obviously is open certain hours too if you want to take part in that. You can go down to the seating bowl, take a seat. I don't know if the Cannonballers just have, random daytime practice there or not. That would be a pretty cool thing to catch that I never really thought about till now. I've seen people walking their dogs. Even when I was there for the college games, those were free admission, so there were still people who were treating it, just people who walked their dogs there who didn't really know what was going on. Yeah, it's really cool actually. I 100% that is my pick because it is one of the most unique things ever. They also, at the time, when I was there 2 years ago, they were building these, and I believe they're done by now. Just more apartment buildings. I believe there's a restaurant attached that I think, don't quote me on this, but I think that restaurant all at the front of it might be attached to the outfield concourse, but I cannot confirm that, so I haven't been there since it's been completed. But yeah, with Kannapolis, just the fact that you can just walk in there anytime, just, take a lunch break there, walk your dog, sit in the stands just because. It's pretty cool. And also, I remember the video board was also on too. The first time I was there was a non-game day. It was the middle of January, or the end of January rather, but January. There was nothing going on that day, but the video board was just on, rotating ads for upcoming games and events and stuff. So, pretty cool. I liked it. Yeah, so that is it for this video. Said, as the video went on, I got more rambly, more tired, which contributed to the rambling. But I hope it was coherent enough for you to understand, and I hope that, this was a fun little video. I'm not trying to act like I am the voice of reason for opinions of any of these parks. Obviously, there are 120 teams, and I have been to 31 active stadiums. I think, and Richmond is going away after this year. Aberdeen won't be affiliated, so knock that down to 29 starting next year if I don't see any more. And yeah, this was just a fun little thing to do in the middle of the night when I couldn't sleep. I thought this was a fun video to share my experiences, basically. Like I said, not really to be a voice of reason for anything, but just to kind of share my experience with unique things in all the stadiums. So yeah, that is it for me. I don't know when I'll be on camera again. Maybe another 9 years. Who knows? Uh, maybe I see more of these stadiums, and not very soon, but maybe in a few years, say maybe 5 years or something, I can remake this video and I can have a bunch of new stadiums to talk about. So yeah, that is it for me. Thanks for watching, and I have to clean up all of these hats now, and then I'm going to bed. I'm definitely not editing this tonight. This is a next week project, but it was good to film it right now. Anyway, that is it for me. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all later.